Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sibling Trap podcast. I am one of your hosts, Katrina, aka Katie, whichever you want to call me, as long as it's kind. I'm here for it. And Barry's over there as well. If you're on YouTube, you'll see us. Hello. I'm not in my car today, but I was almost. So maybe I'll just create a little studio in my car. That would be really fun. Barry
We
has
could always
chosen,
just add a backdrop.
right? It's fine. It's a clean car, so it's all good. And you can't see the floor, so that's a win.
Yeah.
Barry wanted to talk about a little bit about attachment styles today. What prompted you to choose this, by the way?
So dating back, probably I would say over the last summer, I was working at kind of like a dead-end job that I hated and going through kind of a extended breakup. And I read this book. Well, I listened to it while I was at work through Audible or whatever, but it's called Anxiously Attached by Jessica Vaughn. And let me tell you guys, if you haven't read this book or listened to it on Audible, please definitely give it a check out, because dude, it is very not only entertaining, but it's just eye-opening, because I had no idea what attachment styles were before reading the book. And it's just incredible because I aligned with so much this woman was saying and seeing it from a different point of view. And not only that, but also like learning what the other attachment styles were. I was also identifying my partner's point of view, and it kind of gave me that perspective that I was lacking. And it really helped me because I was just so lost and very confused about how I was feeling, and very confused about what I should be doing or how I could be making my life better. So definitely check out that book. Like I said, it's on Audible, and I'm sure it's all over Amazon and whatnot. It's a really, I think it's like 9 hours long if you listen to it. So it's not too long. I mean, it's kind of long, but it's like very intuitive. So like going into like I wouldn't say my current attachment style, because I've grown a lot in the last, like year or so, or like half a year, whatever, 6 months. But at the time I was going through an anxious attachment style. And basically what that is like you're constantly looking for validation in your partner. You're constantly looking for the answers to the problem, like right off the bat. You're not, like in the last episode we were talking about, like, giving yourself space and time before you have those really tough talks. And that wasn't something that I was interested in at all. I was like, let's talk about this now. Like, I need to know now. And I'm just so upset all the time about it. And I let things get to me so deeply. And it was just very, I wouldn't say toxic, but it hurt me feeling that way. Because and one of the other attachment styles is detachment, right? You're detached from the relationship, like you're avoidant, is what it's called, avoidant attachment or whatever. And my partner was like that, so it was like we were both like at the opposite ends of the attachment spectrum, and it was just like everything I did was pushing that person farther and farther away. And it's because of this anxious attachment style, and not feeling secure in my own way, and feeling secure in myself is what really created that. So what are some of the other attachment styles? I know you have them pulled up. I don't have them pulled
up. There's also secure attachment, right? So secure, this is all based on like how you experience life, like ideally like in your first year of life, like your relationship with your parents or caregivers. Like, I know it sucks to say that, but like that determines what we are now. So
right.
it's not like you can change it, really. You just learn how to
cope with it. Yeah. Jinx.
Yeah. Twins. So secure attachment, like in adulthood, would be like flexibility in relationship, a team approach to conflicts and big emotions with their intention that both partners get their needs met, but prioritizing the relationship. And then like their stressors would be like disconnection from important people, or like their secure base. or inconsistency and responsiveness of your partner. And then like what they want from their partners, like consistency and stability and reliability and all of that. And then I am one that's called disorganized or like fearful avoidant attachment, where there's this like deep desire for connection with others, but there's a fear that the connection will be like dangerous or harmful in a way. I wouldn't say like dangerous, but like, do I really want to get close to this person if they're just going to end up hurting me? You know, like that type
Right.
of thing. But like the inconsistency in mood or openness in relationship is also something that could contribute. And then like stressors is like quick changes in partners' emotion status. Like I can tell like if the energy in someone else around me changes, like that stresses me so much. I'm like, oh shit, like we were having a good day. Like, why? Why do we have to do this now?
We need to fix this immediately. Yeah.
Right. And like behaviors that might trigger fear or like the abandonment wound, which is like essentially my entire being. So, yeah, those are the other two. I think that's a good little, there's so many more things we could say about that. And it's probably something that we want to bring like an expert in on to help us like see like how we can become our best selves, like knowing these things about us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever met someone
So
with secure?
honestly, no, I haven't. I mean, that's a tough one. I feel like if you have like the perfect childhood with mom and
Right.
dad and all that,
Who
you
does?
probably, I mean, a lot of us don't, and that's probably, like you said, it dates back to your childhood, and you have to sit down and you have to think about what causes you to feel the way that you feel. And it goes as far back as being a kid. My biggest thing, like a anxious attachment style, I have that same fear of abandonment through that. That's why I'm so anxious for like this need for like constant reinforcement from people in my life.
Yeah.
Like living with dad. Um, I mean, he was at work 24/7, and I literally took care of myself a lot of the time, like through my childhood, and I was constantly having to replace or fill that void with other things, like gaming or reading or whatever it was at the time, and not having a mom in my life at all really really spun me into anxious attachment, just because I never got that touchy feely like hugs all the time. Like, yeah, me and dad hugged, but like it wasn't the same as like having a mom hug you,
Yeah.
like, and I'm not trying to discredit dad or anything like that, but he did everything he could to give me the life that I had, and I'm so thankful for it. Like he worked long, long hours, blood, sweat, and tears. Definitely showed me the meaning of hard work, the dedication to somebody other than yourself, like always putting somebody else before you. And that's what he did for me. And at the same time, though, it was tough because I didn't know how to feel most of the time. Like I had like this anxiety in me of like, hey, I want to talk about how I feel, but like dad's tired from working all day. He doesn't want to hear this, So like I relied a lot on my friends growing up and sharing how I felt with them and stuff like that. And it really put me into this anxious body of, becoming an adult. And then more so like once I got into the Marines, like I had like this huge team of guys around me at all times, but like still very masculine, very like deep in
Yeah.
our core men, like it just it really created this side of me that didn't really understand the other attachment styles. So like I was like, oh well, like if I feel this way, everybody else has to feel this way too, So, and I think that has led me astray in most of my relationships because I'm constantly looking for that other person, that person to fill that void,
Yes.
especially in a woman. And identifying that has been like one of my biggest achievements, I think, because I'm no longer looking for a woman to fill the void of, oh, you grew up without a mom, and you never really had a positive woman in your life. And honestly, it's nobody's fault. It's just kind of how it happened. But now that I've identified it, I'm able to see like, hey, I have to fill that void myself. You know, I have to identify that there is this giant hole in my heart, and I'm constantly trying to fill it with a woman, and that puts a lot of pressure on that woman to have to try to fill that void, you know, and that's not something that I want going into my relationships. I don't want that person to feel like that, you know, they have all this responsibility and they have like this huge, you know, problem to fix. Like I don't want to be the person that everybody's trying to fix all the time, you
Yeah.
know? Like, and with the anxious attachment style, it leads me into trouble all the time. So like identifying that has been
Yeah.
my biggest overcome.
I think that a lot of times we can get a little carried away with like becoming or like filling that void ourselves. So like I was listening to this podcast. It's actually really enlightening. It's called Feminist as Fuck, I think. Is that what it is? No, Feminine as Fuck. And she like talks about like the different like feminine and masculine energies because we have both, right? But because I grew up without a dad, I really stepped into my masculine energy. It's like, well, I don't need help from anyone. Like I can do everything myself and like very independent. Like I've got this. Like I made my own money and like all the things. So I think that it takes a very special partner to like assure you, like, hey, you actually don't need to be doing everything. And like it's okay to just like let someone else take control a little bit. That is like
Right.
my biggest life mission to like let
Yeah.
go of the control.
It's tough. It really is tough. I'm also in that same respect of I'm not controlling, but like I like to be in control. But I'm a guy, you know, masculine. Uh, but having that feminine side where it's like, hey, you know, like let me lay my head in your lap and you play with my hair kind of thing, you
Yeah.
know, like it. And there are so many guys out there, I feel like, don't do that kind of like small, like letting go of the control and letting their partner have more of it.
Mhm.
And I think that a lot of guys are either they're afraid that, and this is tough because a lot of women out there they don't find that attractive. Like if a guy is like letting go of the control, a lot of women are like, no, you're the guy, be in control all the time. You know, like that's great and all, but like, is it healthy? Probably not, in my
There
opinion.
has to be a balance.
Yeah, balance, absolutely. And like I said, a lot of guys won't relinquish their control of situations or different things because they're afraid that their woman isn't going to find it attractive and they're going to like kind of detach from that. And in my experience, a lot of vulnerability comes out of that from a guy's perspective. Trying to think of like an example, it's just like, you know, like crying, right? If you're feeling heavy emotions and you start crying in front of your partner, a lot of women find that to be a turnoff. And that's like, I don't know, I'm not speaking for women, I'm not speaking for everyone, but from my experience, a lot of women in my life have been like, why are you crying? Like, and it's like, dude, like I'm so upset that I visibly can't contain it
Yeah.
anymore. And, you know, like through like management of anger and things like you can't explode anymore. Like if you're trying to control your anger, your body is going to react in a certain way. And in my experience, like if I can't have like outbursting anger, like, oh my God, I hate this, I'll just break down and cry. Like I'll
Yeah.
tell you right now, I admit it right now. It'll just start flowing, and I'm like, I'm crying, and I don't understand why I'm crying. I'm having these big emotions, and
Mhm.
it just kind of happens. And some of my, you know, previous relationships, they'll look at me like I'm crazy, and it's like, oh, dude, like I'm experiencing emotion right now, and you know, from the United States Marine side of me who used to compartmentalize all my emotions and just throw that shit in a box on the shelf and say, I don't need to worry about that.
Yeah.
I feel like it's very healthy being
Mm-hmm.
able to cry. Like Katie, there was years, I think I went like 2 or 3 years where I didn't cry once, like not happy, not sad. It just like my emotions were completely turned off. And that's so unhealthy, dude. I'm still like trying to cope with how that felt and understand that that side of emotion is, it's there, you know, and you have to be able to deal with it. And if you don't, you know, you're going to pay for it later. You really are. And it really sucks because like you feel vulnerable in those situations, and if your partner isn't like supportive, do
Mm-hmm.
that hurt? It hurts so bad. It made me feel unseen, unheard, and I was like, dude, like I'm upset and I'm crying as a guy, and you're over here like basically shaming me for experiencing those emotions. And like that's when I realized that person was just lost.
Yeah, it's not
Like
fair.
you're just lost, dude. Like if you can't understand, or if you can't just not shame somebody for feeling that way, like that was painful, you know? So
Yeah. And so I think it comes back to like, what are we teaching our sons? You know, like every time my son is like, he gets angry, he gets really flustered, and I'm like, hey, buddy, are you just having a really big day today? Like, is it just a long day? Like, let me, let's talk it out. Like, and then he'll start to cry and he gets mad when he cries. And I'm like, you're human. Like, this is just your body releasing the anger. Like, just work through it. Like, we've got this. I'm here with you. Because I'm not going to leave you alone when you're crying. Like, that's the worst form of abandonment as a mom.
yeah, absolutely. And I feel Grayson because like I get so mad when I'm crying because I feel ashamed, and you shouldn't.
Or weak
We
when you're
shouldn't.
not.
Yeah, shouldn't. And
No.
screw anybody that makes a kid feel like they're weak because they're crying. Like those kids.
Yeah.
And you know, I have been guilty, but like there's been situations with, you know, kids where I'm like, okay, this kid's crying, but like you can tell the difference when they're crying for no reason and they're just crying because they have a lot of emotion and it's just kind of showing through. So like you kind of have to identify what's happening, you know, in that situation. But the worst thing to do is to just tell them, hey, don't, just stop crying. You don't need to cry.
Yeah.
Get out of that, you know, mentality, because you're hurting them in the long run. You're creating that anxious attachment style in that kid. And
Mhm.
and it's tough for me because like my son being, you know, on the spectrum and nonverbal, yesterday he just burst into tears out of nowhere, and I was like, what's happening, you know, like fucking
Yeah.
damage control. And come to find out, like he was just looking for something on his tablet, and he couldn't quite find it. And I, you know,
Mm.
sat him down in my lap and I took his tablet and I was like, it's got to be the tablet, because he threw his tablet down and he
Yeah.
picks it up and he throws it down again. And it's just like identifying that that's the problem. So we sit down and we went through it and finally found the little thing that he was looking for. And then it was like, boom, instantly happy again. Runs off, plays, you know. I'm like, yes, score
Right.
one for the home team, you know.
Yeah.
But like I have those same moments where like I don't really understand why I feel the way that I'm feeling. And you know, and sometimes like it'll be like hearing a song that reminds you of somebody, or you know, or seeing, like driving through town and you see some place and it brings up old memories. And it's tough to control your emotions, but like it's part of it, you know. You have to find the balance, like you said, you know. It's being able to still let that feminine side show through, but like also, you know, remember, like at the end of the day, hey, you're a guy, you can get through this, you know. Just, you know, you just got to dig deep and
Yeah.
the positivity, you know, in life, like our previous episode, and just trying to stay positive about things. And that's another thing though, like happy tears, you know. Like I've been through a lot in my life, and in the last few months, like there's so many things that have like really worked out for me. And it's just like tough for me not to like shed a couple tears over the fact that like I love my job and I love the people that I work with. And like it's just crazy to me that 6 months ago I was crying all the time because I was like scared. I didn't know what I was gonna do, and I was just lost. And now it just like it brings that emotion through, because you're just like, man, I'm so thankful, dude. I am so thankful.
I remember that one time you went for a run and you messaged me right after because you just like
Oh yeah.
stopped and you were like crying so like happy tears. And then you saw the cloud, right? Explain what happened.
Yeah. Oh, the cloud thing was a different day,
Oh,
but
okay.
same thing though, same kind of aspect. I was out on a really long run. I think it was like 10 miles, and I was like 4 or 5 miles in, like right before the halfway point. And I just like I was running and I realized that I felt great,
Yeah.
and everything that I was working so hard for when it comes to the running training and all that marathon training was working, and like my progress. And it was like in the middle of the run, and I'm like, like running, and it just like hit me, like tears started flowing. And there was a car coming, and I was like on the sidewalk, and the car's coming, and it was an older guy and his kid. And the kid had this huge smile on his face, and the dad shot me a big thumbs up. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, I don't even know these people, and they're like being supportive of me. And
Yeah.
it just like, I just started crying. I'm about to cry now,
Let it happen. Yeah.
um, but it was like, dude, I felt so great. And
Mhm.
I was so happy to be doing something that I love. And, and then the next time, like it was like kind of early in the morning, the sun was just coming up, and there was a cloud shaped like a soldier with a gun. And I was just and then like I got chills, and like I was like, man, I was so happy, because I was like, man, my brothers are here with me right now. I could feel them.
Yeah.
And I started crying, because I was like, dude, that's the universe showing me like, hey man, keep going. Like
You're on the right path.
you're on the right path. Do keep doing what you're doing. And dude, it was just so incredible. Like a
Mm.
huge wave of positive emotion. And I'm not used to feeling that, like, and
Yeah.
that's the crazy thing. It's like there's so many people out there that take things for granted. Like just being able to run every day is something that I'm so thankful for, because there are people out there that can't. My body does hurt afterwards, and it gets painful at times. Like I get blisters and everything that a runner gets, but like being able to do it is what I'm so
Mhm.
thankful for. It's incredible.
Yeah. I love that. Circling back to like the anxious feeling in relationships and like feeling the need to control things. I was thinking that like a lot of times, especially those that have like the abandonment wound, like you and I do, it's like we try to control situations so that way, like mentally, we're ahead like one step. So like we can see abandonment coming and we can prepare ourselves mentally for it. It's like, okay,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah. But
Ooh,
like,
the first sign of that kind of abandonment, I'm just like, nope, 180, turn around, start running the other direction. Like
yeah,
it's very toxic, because you're like not really giving that person a chance to, I mean, not giving them the chance to abandon you, but like, but also to prove that they're not going to abandon you. Like that's a big deal, because just because we might see it that way doesn't mean that it's actually that way. It's all relative. Like perception is relative. But you're right. I am guilty of that because of that prior abandonment.
or it's like when things are going wrong and falling apart, it's like the anxious need to like, well, I can just like prove that I'm lovable and I'm prove that like, I'm worthy and they'll stay. This time they won't leave.
Hmm.
It's so toxic, I know. But like, see,
It's a big ouchie, dude.
I'm sorry. Like I'm the
That's true though.
opposite. Like I'm the total opposite where like I will, like try to understand where they're coming from. Like there are days, like I've had times where like I'm on my knees and I'm like, but I don't understand. Like, how did this get to where it is now? And like I thought that this was going to be, whatever. Not going into detail. But like as soon as someone says, I'm done, like definitive, like I'm done, like I energetically detach from you. Like I am no longer in a space where I'm going to entertain any thoughts of resolution because like I'm not going to beg someone to be with me because I'm worthy of so much more. So at the end of the day, it's like, okay, you're done. I'm moving on. Like I know that I'm capable of having a life that feels really good and that people will align with that who are meant to be in my life. And so it's like this just like energetic, like we don't do that anymore. Like this isn't the place for us anymore. So it's like it's not easy, but like I've grown my muscle so strong that it's a simple switch. It's like, okay, I'm done here.
Dude, I envy you so much because like you said, we can't really change our attachment styles, but I've adapted that a lot. It's taken a lot of work
Yeah.
emotionally, because like my best friend Scott, he's the same way. Like he's like, dude, why can't you just stop talking to that person? Why can't you just shut off your emotions? And I'm
Right.
like, bro, like that's just not who I am. And it's because, and I'm not saying that you don't care deeply, because obviously you've been pushed to the point where it's like you just stop caring, but it's because I care so deeply.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I can't. Like that's why there's just like this constant need of like approval. Like, hey, I swear that I'm a good person, I swear that I'm trying, I swear that I care about you, like just give me the chance to show you, you know.
But the
But
right
like,
people, you don't need to do that.
but that's the problem. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the problem that I have to identify in myself, is like, if I have to prove myself to you, then you shouldn't be getting that side of me, you shouldn't be getting that approval, you know. Like, and it's crazy because I've, like I said, I've adapted the detachment I have. Like I have identified that I have to just cut ties completely and shut down, because that person's also doing that, you know. And it's very toxic, it is, but it's also protecting yourself, you know, protecting yourself from that abandonment. And you're right, once it's like there's no going back. I mean, I'm guilty of like self-sabotage. Like
Yeah.
once I see that it's not never gonna come out of it, I'll do things just to make the situation more clear on it's gonna be over, or it is over. You know, it's just also identifying that is very toxic, but but you know, it's kind of hard not to do, because as an anxious attachment style, like I feel guilty, or I feel responsible a lot of times for the abandonment. And that's also incredibly wrong. Like it's like, yo, dude, it just kind of happens, you know, sometimes, or it just didn't work out. And in my mind, I'm like, what did I do to cause this?
Yeah.
What could I do next time? And it's like constantly trying to get that closure. And it's like, yo, bro, you don't need closure. It being over is closure enough. You know,
Yeah.
that should be your cue. Hey, I'm out. Like, you know, that should be it. But it's tough dealing with that a lot of times from the anxious side. So, but I definitely feel you. I definitely understand.
And I think it comes back to like every day, like how would like the higher version of me handle the situation? It's like, not my broken side, but like how would my healed version handle this? And, it's not like stooping to anyone else's level. It's not like, doing the things that you are so routinely used to doing that are toxic. It's like, okay, like I could stoop down and like fight about this stupid little thing that someone is, saying about me, or I could just be like, hey, you know what? This is what it is. This is how we're going to move forward. And this is how I can help with that.
That's beautiful. That's a great point of view, because you got to think about it. Like, you, as a human being, you do have like two different versions of yourself. You have the healed version, you have the hurt version, you know.
Yeah.
And being able to adjust your mentality to the healed side without being healed, like that's big. That's something that I think everybody should try to do, and myself included, for sure. That's wonderful.
I think that it comes to like from scripting so much. It's like when I'm on the other side of this, what will my life look like? And so it's like tapping into that every day. It's like, well, when I'm healed, like what will I do with my day? How will I speak to people? What will I no longer be available for? It's like everything has to be recycled and like thought about all the time. It's not just like a one and
That's
done.
big thing. Scripting, it's helped me a lot,
Yeah.
Katrina. Like, you have no idea. Like, I have an entire book. I used to, I'd write out a script and I'd tape it to my mirror
Mm-hmm.
so I could read it like all day long. And I would do that on multiple days. And
Yeah.
oh my God, big
Mm-hmm.
deal.
Yeah. And
Very,
like
very positive reinforcement. It was amazing.
affirmations seem to be like a hot button topic, and they do feel very surface level. That's why a lot of times like I will create my own, and it's not like coming from a place of like a false narrative. A lot of times it's like, I am rich, or like I am abundant, like none of that. Like
Right.
I will like make
It's
my own.
realistic. Yeah.
Yeah. but like as a work in progress. It's like I am becoming the healed version of me, or like I am learning to be calm in situations. Like, so it's like you are then able to see it as a truth, because it's like I am working to become that. It's not like I am this, I am that, when you don't resonate with it at all, because that's
Right.
why a lot of things don't work out. It's like,
Right.
oh, that's never going to happen because that's not where I am. But you are becoming, you are learning, you are evolving into that person. So it's just that, like, the little tweak that can shift so much of your mentality and mindset.
Yeah, it's really about the stepping stones, because like I am rich, right? That's a big stone, right? But you,
Yeah.
what do you got to do? You got to learn how to save better. You got to learn how to not impulse buy, and like things, like little tiny things that lead up to that. And it's crazy to think about um reaching those bigger goals. But like if you think about it on a daily scale, like, well, what can I do better so that way that isn't such a, unrealistic expectation? And scripting definitely helps that a lot. So
Yeah. Maybe we should have like
thank
a
you for,
scripting challenge or
yeah.
something.
Oh, that would be cool. I
Ooh.
mean, that, thank you so much for sharing that with me. I mean, at the time when you told me about that, I was like, I don't need to do that. I'm okay. Everything's okay. And then a couple of months goes by, things that had happened, and I was like, I thought back to it, and I was like, man. And I had another friend tell me, like, oh, it's a new moon, and like you should be setting your, daily affirmations. And I was like, oh, my sister told me about this scripting thing once, and and I just started doing it, along
Yeah.
with the meditation and everything. It was just like it put everything into a new perspective of
Mm-hmm.
no longer like negative energy. It's all more positive energy.
The moons are a very powerful time. Like the full moon is coming up this next weekend. Like that's a time when you like write out all the things that you're like no longer available for, that you're releasing, that you're letting go of, whether it's bad habits or thoughts or relationships or anything. And then I usually burn
And
it
burn
or
it,
rip it up.
burn it. Yep.
Yeah.
Burn lists.
Yep. Yep.
I've been doing the same things.
Yeah. And like just trying to like detach from it. It's like, okay, that's done. That's in the past. We're not bringing that with us to the next moon cycle. So that's great. You've come so
People
far.
don't
I'm very proud.
understand the moon thing is big. I mean, it literally controls the tides. Like, how can you
Mhm.
say that something like that doesn't have energy? I mean, it is one of the most energetic things that I've experienced. So
Yeah. And the more
it's
you
all
become
tied into it.
aware, it's like you start to see how your body is different in the different moon phases. Like I have high energy on this phase and I have low energy on this phase. Like I know what's coming up so I can prepare for that in advance, whether it's in your house or like with your workload. Like there's so many things you can do to help you live more efficiently. So,
More efficiently, more positively. That's the
yeah.
biggest thing. It's positive.
Hmm.
But
Anything else
cool,
you want to
man.
say to
No,
this?
I think that's it. I think we about covered the attachment styles. It's
Awesome.
crazy to think I never really thought that you were another attachment style, but it makes sense now, now we've had the
Hmm.
conversation. So
Yeah, I'm excited. Let
uh,
me know or let us know on the Sibling Trap Instagram what attachment style you are. If you're feeling vulnerable, this is a place where like we need to start becoming more comfortable with having these conversations. So like our DMs are open. Um,
at all times.
yeah, and maybe
And if
like
you have any
3:45.
questions, yeah, questions about being an anxious attachment style because you're something different, please reach out to me, and I'll give you the rundown. I'll tell you how I feel about certain subjects. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Maybe we can talk about it in a Patreon call too soon.
oh, and if you're a secure attachment style, please reach out to us, because I'd love to learn like some positive feedback from
We
that.
should have them
Because
on. We're like, hey,
yeah,
how's life?
what do you think about this? Yeah, that would be crazy. So yeah,
Oh my
definitely
God.
reach out to us for sure.
Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.
See ya.